Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Harvey County Talk. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley. Our guest on the program today is Harvey County Sheriff Chad Gay. How you doing today, Chad?
Doing great.
Good.
Happy to be here.
Very good. Thank you for coming on the program again. We had discussed it, and I was thinking, I knew that we did an interview before. I knew we did an interview before, and I could not find it. And I was really wanting to do an interview through Harvey County Talk, which before we had done one through Harvey County Digital. So I thought, well, we'll get Chad out here again. If he wants to come on the program, that'd be awesome. We can give like a brief on his life a little bit like we did the last time. And then also just maybe even discuss some policy issues that we know that are near and dear to Chad's heart. How about that?
Sounds good.
I love it.
Sounds good.
I love it. All right. You know, the man will be put on the spot. You know this, right? For his community, he will do anything for his community, and that includes coming out on Harvey County Talk and fielding some hard questions, if you want to call it that.
Happy to do it.
I love it. Okay, so for those that didn't see the interview before, you have to dig really, really deep to find it. So it was one of the things we talked about before going on here is just for Chad to just give a brief. Like I said, the last interview, we went into a lot of detail. We spent an hour talking about Chad's life and where he came into law enforcement and everything. So there's still that out there. You can catch that. But just for the sake of the other things that we're going to talk about, Chad agreed that he would give pretty much just a quick rundown of where he hails from and how he found himself in law enforcement and a little bit about his life. So Chad, I got to ask the question: were you born in Newton, Kansas?
I was not born in Newton, Kansas.
Okay.
I was actually born in Ada, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And I kind of hate to admit it, but it was 1968. And then probably 1971 or so, 72, my family and I moved to Newton. Okay. And my dad got a job here. And so I grew up in Newton, did all my schooling in Newton from kindergarten through high school, and graduated Newton High School in 1986. 1987, went into the United States Marine Corps. Spent 4 years in the Marines, got out in 91, Desert Storm veteran. They sent me to Desert Storm. Got out of the Marine Corps in 91 and worked for my in-laws, Denny's Heating and Cooling, so Dennis and Rita Franz, my wife's parents, and worked for them for 3 years. And then in 94, well, actually in 93, I tested for the Newton Police Department and then got hired in 94.
Cool. Now,
started with Newton.
I want to stop you because I remember you told a story on the last one of what possessed you to go from working for a family business that probably could have had a very long career, right? And heating, cooling is what it was, right?
Yes,
HVAC.
yeah,
okay.
installed heating and cooling.
Okay, so that's a trade in and of itself, and just knowing that, well, we need those all day long, every day. And if you try to call one today or in the dead of summer or the dead of winter, there's very few that are around. So assuming that could have been a lifelong career for you, what made you want to get involved in policing? Was it something that you just always had in the back of your mind, or was it something that you kind of just came to at some point?
Policing wasn't necessarily always in the back of my mind, although when I was in middle school, I remember going out and riding we did like a day where they said, what do you want to be? And I said, well, I think it'd be, in police work would be interesting.
Yeah.
And so that was probably, 7th or 8th grade. Like I say, I was at Chisholm Middle School. And I ended up going out with Bruce Jolliffe, who I ended up running against later as for sheriff.
Wow.
And so I rode with Bruce Jolliffe and just did like an hour ride along, and I thought it was pretty cool. And then went through high school, and it kind of got away from that. Like, I don't think that's something I want to do. And then joined the Marine Corps, and Marine Corps was kind of a weird deal too, because I got out of high school and really didn't have any plans of what I wanted to do. All my buddies were auto mechanics, and I'm a gearhead, but all my buddies were gearheads, and they all went to Arizona to go to the Arizona Automotive Institute.
Okay.
And I just decided I don't know if I want to do that. For one thing, I didn't think I could afford the schooling, and so I don't know if I want to go to Arizona to go to school. And I was reading my sister's Rolling Stone magazine, and there was a card in there for a Marine Corps card ad, and I was like, oh, that might be interesting. And so I filled out the card and sent it in, and then the recruiter called me, within the next couple of days, and then the next couple of days after that, I signed up for the Marine Corps.
Yeah. And
that was not something in high school that wasn't even on my mind, right? And anyway, went to the Marine Corps. Was probably one of the best decisions I made with my life. It was really good for me. So when I got out, my in-laws thought it'd be a good idea if I supported their daughter, because Robin and I got married in 1988 while I was in the Marine Corps. And so I was in North Carolina most of that. And so we got married in 1988. And then when I got out of the Marine Corps, like I say, her parents thought it'd be a good idea if I had a job to support them. And I thought, that is a good idea. So I got it. They hired me, and I started doing installations. I learned how to install heating and cooling. And Curtis Nightingale, a good friend of mine, he and I hung out together all the time, and he was, said, "Hey, there's an opening on the police department. Are you interested in that?" And I said, "Well, yeah, that sounds like that might be a pretty cool deal." I've always just kind of been geared towards helping people. I mean, I've just always enjoyed that, right? Yeah. And I think the last time that we did this, I told you the story about, like, my friends and I, when we were in high school, used to go out when it would snow a bunch and just look for people to help push out.
Yep.
Just push out the snow. And just because we enjoyed that, and I didn't expect payment from anybody from that. I just enjoyed helping people. So
heart to serve.
Yeah, that's the way I feel like that. But so anyway, Curtis took me out on a ride along, and I was like, man, this is great. And I thought it was cool. And as a police officer, there's a variety of things you can do, and you can be sitting at a desk typing and decide, I don't want to type anymore, so I'm going to go out and drive around, make a few traffic stops, go talk to some folks, take some calls, go back, type. I mean, it's just really cool. It's very free, right? Like, you have a lot of freedom to just get out and try to, well, really, the way I look at it is do good things in our community and for our community. And so then that would have probably been 93 that Curtis took me out for a ride. And I applied in 93 with the police department. Curtis said they had an opening, and I actually went in with, I want to say it was Craig Dunleavy, Mike Willis, maybe Gary Crittenden. We all tested at the same time, and those guys got hired. Dunleavy was a reserve, and so he got hired a year before me, and he's the chief now of Newton. And
doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, doing a great job. I agree. Craig's doing a great job. And so then those guys got hired, and so I was just kind of left on the roster, right, of people that had already tested. So when another opening came up, they contacted me, and the rest is history. Yeah. So in April of 94, so actually this month, April 27th, will be 30 years for me of law enforcement in this community, right, between Harvey County and Newton PD. And so, and then there we are. So since 94, I've been serving our citizens here in Harvey County as a law enforcement officer.
Well, and you've done some different things over time. Well, of course, now you're the sheriff of Harvey County, the sheriff of Harvey County, right? Not a sheriff of Harvey County, you're the sheriff.
One. Yes.
Which comes with all of the cool things that you get to serve and be the leader and just be the face of law enforcement within our community, and I think that's an amazing thing. But it's interesting. You said, you started your career, but I know you've done a few different things. When I first met you, it was in the capacity of you being a school resource officer. So, not to date myself, but I'm around that 2000s mark of being in Newton High School or whatever, and so you started out, I'm guessing, as like just a road deputy. That's not what they call it, is it?
No, it's a patrol officer.
It's a patrol officer. Okay, yes. So you started as a patrol officer, and then from there, how just walk me through kind of the progression of your career up to being a school resource officer, I guess, and then maybe like how you became the sheriff.
Yeah, so I spent the first 5 years of my career was a patrol officer, right? I was a street cop, right? And I did a few things during that time too. And I was a 98. I got certified as a firearms instructor. There were three of us that wanted to start bike patrol in Newton.
Okay.
And so So it was Travis Taylor and Todd Hanchett were the first two, and then Todd decided he didn't want to do it anymore. So then Travis Taylor and I were the two bike patrol guys, right? I was kind of in line there. Those two guys were senior to me, so they got to do it first. So I did quite a bit of bike patrol stuff in the summertime. Best gig ever.
Yeah.
I loved the bike patrol. Well, not best. The school resource officer was a really good gig, but I really enjoyed the bike patrol stuff because I liked, there was a time when I was more comfortable on a bicycle than I was walking, so I just loved it. I loved doing the bike stuff. And like I say, firearms instructor, did some defensive tactics instructing type stuff. And then in 1999, 98 maybe, I started with the middles. I don't remember the exact year. That's kind of bad. So I think it was 1999. I started as the school resource officer at the middle schools. And Chris Carter was at the high school. So Chris was the first SRO for Newton.
Okay.
And Chris got promoted to corporal, and then I moved to the high school and spent from 1999, 2000, right, up until 2000, until January 6th of 2017 was my last day as a Newton police officer. And so I spent all those years in the school.
Wow.
And that was really that was really a nice gig. I really enjoyed that. That was, not only did I get to do all the school stuff, but during the summer, then I got to go out and do street patrol.
Yeah.
So it was almost like two different jobs.
Yeah.
And I was kind of, I always jokingly called I was like the sheriff of Newton High School.
Yeah.
That was my own little community, right?
Yes.
I was in charge of the law enforcement in that community. I mean, obviously I was under the chiefs at the time and, whoever was in charge of SROs, but, I was 1,000 people out there, and that was my little community. That was my responsibility to take care of, and I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah. Really made, I think, and, I'm sure you could argue with me about it, but I think the SRO is probably the most well-rounded position that you're going to find out of people, right? That's going to make the cop the most well-rounded person, cop that you could be. And I always said, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but in that position, I influenced way more people than anybody else ever would have as a law enforcement officer, right? I had influence and over those, over the kids, as in I was, just really, because, I could really get close to those guys and work really one-on-one with those youngsters.
Yeah. And then, sorry.
No. I just going to say it was a really great gig.
Yeah. And I would echo what you're saying, being a youth during that time, and then knowing that, this whole police officer in the high school thing was kind of new. And I don't know if it was new in general or whether it was something new here. I can't call that. But I know that, Chad, during that time, you made some real impacts in people's lives and youth, knowing that you can target youth, let's say, with, not law enforcing or policing, but just relationship building, being able to be a positive peer mentor for them, the relationships built. I'm sure there was a lot of liberty with you being a resource officer and what should we do here? What's the best thing to do, right, for these youth because of where they're at? It's not your traditional, you're an adult, you're making the wrong decisions, then my job is to, if it is to, arrest them and then they do the system thing or whatever, it's a little bit different in that case, isn't it?
Yes, because really the least of what obviously I was a law enforcement officer assigned to the high school, right? I was a Newton police officer assigned to Newton High School. That was my duty station. Copping was the least thing I did out there.
Yeah.
I really, it was really fairly rare that I did law enforcement action out there. Most of it was counseling kids, just using like the years that I've been around to be able to help kids out and tell them here's the way we should be looking at things and doing things and that type, just counseling kids.
Yeah.
I did that a lot.
Yeah.
Way more than any cop work.
Right. So, okay, we're at 2017 and just kind of take me, did you just decide, hey, I'm done with the school resourcing thing, or what kind of led you into the next phase, and what was the next phase, Chad?
Yeah, so that was the tough part, was that I really enjoyed the school resource officer job, right? My plan was just to finish out my career there. So for us folks, us cop folks and firefighters too, we're KPNF retirement system through the Kansas Police and Fire, right? We could retire when we're 50 if we have 25 years of service. And I started when I was 25, so at 50 I had my 25 years of service in. I could retire at that point. So my plan with Newton Police Department was to just be at the schools until I got to my retirement age, and stay around a little longer. Probably I wasn't going to go when I was 50. I don't know. I'm not ready to do that. But so I just, that was my goal, right? Let's just do this. And then, T. Walton started talking about, he was the sheriff prior to me, and T started talking about maybe not running for sheriff again. He did 2 terms, and he was like, I think I want to be done. T's a little older than I am.
Yeah.
And T was actually one of my field training officers when I started on Newton PD.
Okay.
Great guy. He and I have known each other for a long time. Great guy. Anyway, so T started talking about maybe not running again, and people were talking like, well, who's gonna replace T? And I just started thinking about it, and this was probably 1 or 2 years out, from the sheriff thing. I really hadn't thought about it too much before that, and I said, well, I think I could do that. I think I should do that. I think it's, and I look at it like, if not me, who?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think I should do that for our community. I should run for sheriff and try to be that guy. And I put my mind into it, right, and decided that let's do this. And so my wife was behind me, Robin was behind me, and all my kids, and we just decided let's get her done. So. Then T made it official that he wasn't going to run, and so because I wasn't going to run against T.
Yeah.
I had pretty much made my mind up that I was going to run, but that was, if T wasn't going to run.
That's right, because T. Walton you're an awesome person, T. Walton, and you served our community very well. You were a wonderful sheriff, and you can't say anything bad about you,
right, Right. Why would I run against a guy doing that? Because I'm happy with what's going on with the sheriff's office.
Absolutely.
So he was out, and so I'm in. Yeah. So I started that process, and that was, and I don't know if you want to talk about the election.
Oh yeah. Tell me. I'm all about the election. I always, having ran in elections before, have my own personal experience with that. So it's like, walk me a little bit through that. There's a difference between being hired into something and doing a job in which your resume, a certain group of people look at that and say, hey, you're a good guy for the job. But when you have to go in front of the public and win by an election, because for anybody listening that doesn't know, Chad's job is an elected position. So you have to, honestly, be hired by every single voter that voted for you in the county, and then have the majority of the votes. So, and I don't think you ran uncontested or anything. So no. It was a situation where there were other people that were there too, that were good law enforcement officers, invested in the community as well, and they also were there to say, hey, I'm an alternative to Chad. And so, that how did that shape up? I always ask people, what was it like on election night for you?
Yeah. Oh, man, that was interesting. Yeah. Well, and you've ran several campaigns and getting ready to run another one.
Yeah.
County commissioner. Yeah. District 2. So, which just happens to be where I live.
Yes.
In District 2.
Well, I'll stop by and talk to you, Chad, and see if maybe can garner your vote.
So, it was a lot of work, because I ran against 2 guys in the primary.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And for the Republican nomination, and I got that. I beat those guys. And then Brian Hall, he's now the chief of Sedgwick.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he just got that job. So good for Sedgwick.
Yes.
So Brian Hall, and I ran against each other. He was a Democrat and I ran as a Republican, and I beat him.
Yeah.
But election night, what a humbling experience for. Well, let me go back.
2 election nights.
Yes.
2.
Yeah. I won 2 elections. Yeah. So I go back just a little bit. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it takes it. I ran 2 of them, so you spend actually quite a bit of money. And I got donations, but I'm not good at soliciting donations.
Yeah.
I just hate it. I don't like asking people. I don't like asking people for help, right? Because my whole life I've helped people.
Yes.
Right. And so I'm not the guy. I'm not good at asking for help from people. That's just not my thing. And so, with those elections, though, you got to ask for a little bit of help. And most of my help that I got was from people like dude Troy Sin. You may not know Troy, but he and I went to high school together, and he did a ton of work on my campaign. We put up like 30 some of those big signs, the big 4x8 plywood signs.
Yeah.
And that was, Troy and I going out and doing that.
Yeah.
He was immensely helpful. Marion Weiss, I don't know if you know Marion. He did he really helped me out a lot, and we had to paint all those signs, and oh God, it was just
A lot of work.
If it was interesting because I let myself get more consumed with it than I wanted to. So if I wasn't doing something to campaign, I was thinking about what I should be doing to campaign.
Yep.
And I don't know if you were the same way when you run, but you, and I don't know, hopefully, and I don't know if everybody gets that way, right? But I mean, it just consumed me for, fortunately it was only, I think probably I started collecting signatures like in November of 2015, right? And then because in 2016 was the election, so I started collecting signatures then, and so that's sort of starting the campaign process. And then like in January and February, you start getting your signs in and start getting them in the ground. So, almost a year of consuming yourself with campaigning and trying to figure out, okay, well, how can I best present myself so that folks will vote for me because I want to be the sheriff.
Yep.
And it was really time consuming, well worth it, obviously. Yeah. So the first night, I won the Republican primary, and what a huge relief that is.
Yes.
And really a good feeling. And I was saying before, it's an extremely humbling experience to know that people have put their faith in you by voting for you to do a really important job in our community, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of anything. I don't want to insult the firefighters, but I don't want to, I can't think of anything more important in our community than law and order, right?
Yeah, agreed.
And I love my fire buddies, my firefighter brothers, and sisters, but my son's a firefighter here in Newton, but I just don't think there's anything more important than law and order. And so for people to put their faith in me to be the guy that's in charge of making sure that gets taken care of in our county, it was huge. And so then extremely humbling experience to have people vote for and you win, right? And I had a party, and a bunch of people there, and everybody claps and hollers, and it's just it's a really cool feeling.
Yeah.
And then the same thing for then you actually get elected to be sheriff, right? And that next one in the general election, and that was just a really surreal feeling. I mean, it was just really crazy, and again, very humbling. And I remember the nights. I remember standing like in the middle of all those people that were there to hang out with me, and everybody's clapping and stuff when we're watching the TV and getting the results on their cell phone, and just thinking, oh my God, I'm the sheriff, pinching myself like, oh, is this real? And I probably pinched myself for like 2 or 3 years after that to think, golly, I am the sheriff. I mean, it's just a crazy feeling.
Yeah, and for somebody like you, especially, because that's the nature of who you are, Chad, is I think anybody that's watching you or knows you knows that it's a matter of your true heart to serve your community. You did it, when you first signed up to be a police officer in that capacity, and then when you became a school resource officer, and then when you decided to run for sheriff, and then when you finally became sheriff, and all of that you've done since then. I mean, your life is a testament, and I'm just telling you this from my viewpoint and many people's viewpoint in the community. Everybody that I know looks at you as somebody that we're so proud to have. We're so thankful to have you, and the fact that you are a humble guy like you are, and that you just have stayed what I would call tried and true through it all. And you've not let it affect you. You've just continued to be the same person that you've always been, and that's your heart. And I just got to say thank you.
I appreciate that.
I'm telling you, thank you.
It's really humbling that you tell me that.
It's the truth. It's coming from me, but I can be awful critical. Right. Everybody knows Lance can be critical of things, sometimes on the, too much so. And I'm trying to learn through that. But just the fact that, I'm a watchful person. I'm a watchful eye. And I'm just appreciative of you, Chad. If there's somebody that I put my faith and trust in, that I put my vote in, I couldn't ask for a better human being to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Really nice
and I'm glad I get to sit here and tell you that right now.
I appreciate
it. And I hope
that.
everybody watching will shake their head and go, yeah, that's actually pretty true. Well said, Lance. Very well said. Because I'm sure that they probably agree. I mean, I can't even say probably, Chad. I mean, that's for real. That's for real. So before we get stuck here in our bro moment, Okay. Yeah, no bro moments. So anyway, we're here today, okay? And I know that in your, I know I started the program and I talked to you about the fact that I did want to talk a little bit about some policy stuff and some policy issues that seem to be cropping up and just what's been in the news lately, we'll say. So this would be fresh in everybody's minds about things that they could attach to. We're not going back years to where people are like, what is the moment? What is he talking about? But a couple things have come up recently. One being just the need for our facilities at the detention center to either be, I'm guessing, upgraded, because I doubt that there'll be a tearing down of and then rebuilding in that situation. But just this idea and the knowledge that your job goes way beyond policing. It goes to the administrative side of it. So a sheriff is, for people that don't know, has a lot of administrative duties. They are the head of the law enforcement department, which in our case includes a correctional facility, Harvey County Detention Center. And with that, I think I just want to have the audience hear you talk a little bit about that portion of your duties, because that's a big part. That's a big part. That's a big money situation, right? And then I know that you're somebody who's a good steward of what you've been given. So like when we read in the paper, I have recently that there's been some discussion back and forth from the commission and the sheriff's department about the state of our facility and maybe some things that might need to be improved. Can you just give a brief on that, as far as, what is the state of our detention center? And I know that there's officers there that work there and that they're not road deputies necessarily, but they're part of our law enforcement community. What are some things that are going on, and a little more detail for people that might not know?
Yeah, and the jail is really important.
Yeah.
It's statutorily required for us to have a jail, right?
Okay.
And so the sheriff's office is in charge of it. And ultimately, that's me.
Yeah.
Because I'm the sheriff, and it's the sheriff's
right?
office. Yeah.
Pinch that.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Dang it.
You mean I'm in charge of the jail, too? Golly. So the jail is 27 years old. It was built in 97. And it is showing its wear. So it's, they say the smart people, right? The people that are educated about how places are built.
Yeah.
And buildings and how they age. They say the jail ages like 5 years per year, like a dog.
Yes. Yeah.
They age like a dog does.
They're hard.
So they're used by a population that doesn't care about how that place, it functions and the maintenance and all those things, and tearing them up. So it is it's an older facility, and I know, when I look at it, really, I think, golly, it's only 27 years old, right? Newton High School was built in the early 70s. There's all kinds of, courthouse was built in the early 70s, late 60s. So there's all kinds of buildings in this community that were, my house was built in the late 50s.
Yeah.
And it's still functioning just fine.
Yeah.
Oh, I've had to upgrade it quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
Heating, cooling, all kinds of stuff, but so it's a much smaller scale. So I think, okay, 97, is it really gonna? And it is, and I can attest to the fact that yes, there are many issues with it, and we had I'm not an architect or a building structural engineer or any of those things, and so we hired a group of people to come in and say, So what started that conversation was probably, 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. And we started having a conversation because we're putting a ton of money in that place, fixing stuff. The heating cooling units have life cycled out. The water heater, right, that heats the water that they shower with, and then the boilers that heats the water that goes through and heats the air. Those, and the boilers are still original to the building, but the water heaters we replaced those. But so we're starting to replace all of these things. And at some point we think, okay, we're not experts at this. Maybe we should call some experts and have them come in and say, okay, are we going to keep just piecemealing this, right? Or are we just going to keep, if something breaks, we replace it. The big unit on the roof was still functioning, but we knew it was coming to life cycle end. And if it dies on us, and we're in the middle of summer, because that's when it's going to die on us, right? Because Murphy's Law. Yeah. Murphy's Law says that. So if it dies on us, we're in big trouble, because it'll be super hot in the jail, and we're going to have a lot of problems with the inmates and not being happy and not taking care of them like we should. So we decided to replace that unit. It was $120,000, $130,000, and so that's just a small I'm just talking about a small sample of what needs to be gone through in there. We have, a lot of plumbing that is older. It's all copper.
Yeah.
It was. Now we have pecks and shark bites all over the place trying to make up for the leaks that are happening in there. The system that runs the heating and cooling, that's getting older. So there's a ton of stuff. If you went in there and looked at like the showers there, and we'll get you that tour.
Yeah.
But if you look at like the showers are all, the floors coming up, and there's just, it needs a remodel, just like your home would after, you live in your house for 25 years, you're going to put new carpet in it, new flooring, and maybe new countertop, new heating and cooling unit, all those things that we replace in our home after those many years. The jail is seeing that just at a huge, at a $9 million level.
Well,
right?
And it's interesting. You said at the very beginning that a jail ages 5 years to every year, and that might be something that a lot of people don't realize is that it's not like anybody's there respecting it, right? And it's not to say anything negative about people that find themselves in that situation, but they're probably in that situation because they are not happy in and of themselves, 9 times out of 10. And so then, well, what's it to take it out on the environment, right?
Yes.
So that happens. That's normal. I think probably in any situation, and I just think that's an interesting conversion to say that it has seen its useful life, and we're getting to the point where it could potentially. What I hear you saying is that it's costing us, or will be costing us, more money in the near future to try to just keep fixing things rather than going through and giving, setting aside a certain amount of money for us to not have to be doing that life expectancy.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, and the emergent situation when something bad happens. I mean, we're housing, 100 to 110 people a day.
Okay.
Is what we house in there. And then if something really bad happens and now we can't heat and cool the building, or we can't supply water to the inmates, we're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So, not only is the building, aging faster than a normal building, but when something bad happens, we're in a lot of trouble. I mean, it's an emergent situation, and now you got to spend money, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way around it. It's not in my budget to spend well, that one was, but some of these things are, if a heating and cooling unit goes out that's cost us $25,000 to fix it, I didn't put that in my budget because my crystal ball is broken.
Yes.
There are some things I can try to predict, but not everything. So now it's like, well, I mean, we got the county, the folks, our citizens are going to have to come up. Their taxpayer money is going to have to. We got to have the jail operating properly. Last winter we had back in our work. I say back in because it's kind of back in the facility, but it's the work release dorms. And so when the building was built, it was intended to have work release, and I think that was quickly, the kibosh was put on that quickly.
Okay.
I think Byron Motter was sheriff when it was built, and I think he quickly put the kibosh on that because I think somebody went out and didn't come back.
Yeah.
And so now we use it as in a dorm setting, and we house prisoners back there. And this winter, the heating and cooling wasn't working right, and they couldn't get it figured out, and it was 50 degrees in there.
Yeah.
And so we had to put stand-up heaters in there, the little space heaters, and that's not good because I don't necessarily. Inmates are very creative. I don't know what they're going to. Security
risk out the wazoo.
Yes. What are they going to do with that heater?
Who knows what, or any attachment of it. Yeah.
Yes.
When you have nothing but time, but to think about, creative ways to do things
to make weapons and all kinds of,
or against them, each other. And that's the security risk. And I mean, there's one thing that I'm glad you didn't mention, I was wondering if it was, for us as, citizens to worry about whether or not that's a safe environment for our sheriffs that are in there working, and that's probably all the things you mentioned are contributing factors to an environment that is not humane and not conducive and not part of the deal, right? That yes, you may, break the law, but we're going to treat you in a humane way. That's what we're responsible to do. You have the right to, the whole legal system. We talk about the rule of law is designed to be able to have a safe environment, not only for the officers, a safe environment for those that are there during their stay, or for whatever that might be, and then also to ensure that both can be maintained in a way that just is productive, hopefully productive, rather than unproductive for everybody that's there. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And obviously we're not going to be putting down rose petals for them to walk on everywhere they go, but we. So it's not like, it's not a good place to be, right?
No.
I mean, nobody wants their freedom taken like that, but we have to treat them with dignity and respect. I mean, we have to do that for these folks, because some of them are going to come out and eventually be law-abiding, productive citizens, right? And so, and that's what that's what I want.
Yes.
And so, that's important to us to be able to do that and make sure these guys are taken care of.
Yeah, and I'll say it myself. One thing during my education in criminal justice that I did some classes in or whatever, it's, incarceration is punishment. It's not for punishment, right? It's not for you to go there to be punished more. Just the fact that you're incarcerated is punishment enough. So, not putting words in your mouth. No. But I mean, it's an interesting thing that, when you talk about it, I'm sure there's somebody listening that says, well, why do they need air conditioning, or why do they need a heater? And that's not really the way that it works. We have a society that agrees that because somebody's placed themselves in that situation does not mean that, we need to be inhumane. So,
right. Yeah. We again, treat them with dignity and respect, and you'll get that back.
Yep.
But when we go into a position where it's 100 degrees in there or 50, and they start getting a little restless.
Yeah.
Now that creates issues for our deputies, right? Because these guys are mad at the deputies, and it's not the deputies' fault, and so now it could create some squabbles between us and them. Yeah. We don't want that. So typically, we want inmates to be mostly happy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not we want them to know that they're in there. It sucks to be in here, but we're treating you with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I look at it the same way. You can't starve them to death.
Right.
I mean, okay. So anyway, okay. Moving on from that, I appreciate your perspective on that, and giving myself and the audience just a little bit more personal account, if they hadn't heard about it, just kind of where we're at in that situation. So when they see that conversation come up, then they're able to understand why we're having the conversation in the first place, right? It's not one of these things where we just have this conversation that people don't understand or not informed properly and then wonder why we're even having the conversation. That's like taking 2 steps back before you can take 1 step forward, and that's not good for anybody.
Sure.
But go ahead.
Well, one of the things I want to make sure people understand is I'm not asking for this jail study, right, to happen because I think I don't like it over there and I just want new stuff. I mean, that's the last thing. I don't want to spend $9 million on our jail. I don't want our taxpayers to have to, fork over $9 million to do something, or $28 million, whichever level that made the decision, I mean, there's multiple levels of what we can do here. And I don't really want to build a new jail, because if we do build a new jail, I want the sheriff's office to be built with it.
Yeah.
And if the sheriff's office is built with it, I would love to have the courts built with it.
Yeah.
So it'd be like a justice center.
Yes.
Giant amount of money.
Yeah.
So if we don't get all of that, I don't want any of it.
Yeah.
Or, like building a new jail offsite. And so, right now, we're just looking at, again, I just want to make sure people understand. I'm not doing this just for the fun of it, right? Because I think it'd be cool to have a new place, or we could redo some stuff, and then Chad Gay gets his name on a plaque there.
Yeah,
that says,
we'll call it Gay Detention Center. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to make sure that people understand that this is we need to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that needs to be done. And whatever level that our citizens agree on, that's where I am, right? I'm not saying that. Chad Gay, this is what Chad Gay would like to see, the sheriff would like to see, but this is up to the citizens. I mean, I want to make sure that they're okay with what we're doing and how much money we're spending, of the taxpayer money.
Yeah.
So
that's
where I'm.
Another policy thing that I wanted to talk with you about was, basically the 2 major ones was, I saw a post come out recently, and it's just scary. I mean, it really is just scary to me, with kids and I have, everywhere from a 20-month-old to 16-year-old and all that in between. And this understanding that, I'll just say it, the evil word, fentanyl. There was a post that you guys did bringing awareness out to individuals in the community so they would be aware that normally, we see this in this form, or it may look like this, or this is kind of what we're used to seeing. But now we're seeing it in a different way. And not only that, but it's like they're becoming more creative in how they're trying to pass this stuff off. And I've even, talked with people from DFY. Love you guys. Love what you're doing in every way. Send a shout out to DFY for all that they're endeavoring to do with the youth in our community. But we're really looking at a situation in which this is a horrible drug. All drugs are bad, but this seems to be just topping the charts with the amount of people that are succumbing to the addiction as well as overdosing. And just if you could briefly speak to that, just what you guys are seeing, and then maybe what would be a way that maybe could inform a parent or somebody from a law enforcement perspective to the community about this stuff and where we're seeing it and what's happening with it.
Yeah, so when I started in 94, and it still is, that's still the methamphetamine was the big deal. And that was the time though when people were driving around with meth labs in their cars.
Yeah.
We'd make a traffic stop. You walk up there, you look in the back seat, and you can tell there's a meth lab in the car, and it freaks all of us out a little bit,
Yeah.
And those days are over.
Yeah.
And so meth is still it's still the number one, like, heavy drug, I would call it, right? Marijuana is going to be the number one illicit drug out there, right? And I put it in kind of a different category. Yeah. But the meth is still out there and still number one. But the problem now is that most people, you saw the post with that pink meth, and you just crush it up and make it. And you can crush up the pills too, the blue pills that have been out there for quite some time of the fentanyl. The biggest problem to me is that it's not rocket scientists or chemists developing and manufacturing these drugs, right? Yeah. It's some dude, could be a girl. I tend to think it's a dude.
Body.
Yeah. It's some person putting together fentanyl pills. And what dose are they? What level are they? How's pure is the fentanyl? And so as a consumer, you have no idea. You have no idea. The guy can tell you this is whatever, milligrams or whatever of fentanyl.
Yeah.
You have no idea. And that's why that's why so many people are dying from it, because they're taking a dosage that is way too much for them. And, fentanyl, they use fentanyl as a drug for medical reasons, right?
Yeah.
In the medical setting, in a medical community. But this stuff, and now, you got the pink stuff. it could look like a pixie stick for all I know, right? And not that these bad guys would market towards younger people. That's sarcasm.
Yeah.
They would,
well,
and
course.
they do, and they will.
Number one buyer for life.
Yes. Yeah, that's how you hook them young.
Yeah.
And so my concern is you just never know what you're taking. And that goes for marijuana too, because there are, marijuana laced with fentanyl that we've came across. And so, this guy thinks he's just getting some marijuana, and it turns out to have fentanyl lacing it, or, laced with fentanyl. And that's it.
Yeah.
And now family members are grieving their kids and their family, and that they didn't, because the kid just didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like I say, the biggest problem with those pills is these aren't chemists putting this stuff together.
Yeah.
There's some schlub, in his back porch of his house,
And so you guys will just keep doing, you just keep chucking away. You try to keep supporting organizations that invest in youth, and try to keep it off the streets as much as possible. What else can you do, Chad?
That's, I think that, and you got the DFY folks that are, I think hand in hand with law enforcement, right? And we're Sean Chapman, our undersheriff, is part of that group, and
awesome.
And so they got to keep educating, and we got to keep enforcing, and they can't do the enforcement part, but we can also do the education part. So we we just need to be out there. Our guys that we have tasked with being our, drug enforcement guys.
Yeah.
I can't air quote drug enforcement guys because they do a bunch more than that, but they're our drug investigator guys. Just keep on getting to it, and showing the community what's out there.
Yeah.
I want the community to know that these things are out there and your family members are using it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a very scary time with that. At least with the, we didn't see hardly ever overdoses with meth. I mean, it could happen. Meth will kill you, and meth is horrible.
Yeah.
It's a horrible, life-changing drug.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes family members not recognize their own children and their own family members. It does. It does. It's a horrible drug, but it wasn't killing all the people that this fentanyl thing is killing. All of our folks. So, and marijuana. I look at. I don't know where you stand on the marijuana issue, but I'm against. I'm against
illicit
legalizing
use of any kind. I've said before, and that I see there being a medical property to it, just like any other drug that they, you even said fentanyl, using that one or hydrocodone or any of these, and just pray that. I don't know. I mean, I can't say I can't change my thought on it, because after talking with DFY and learning things about DFY, it's like, yeah, I'm just anti it all if I can be anti it all, because just one leads to the next. And like you said, even then, I mean, what do you do when they're lacing marijuana with fentanyl now? I mean, just it's horrible, Chad. It's horrible. We are getting close to the end of the program.
Okay.
There's 2 more questions I want to ask. I want to give you the last word, so you might want to combine both of them together. I don't know. But I know the election time's coming up, Chad, and I know that you haven't filed yet or anything, but I want to know. Would you grace me right now with announcing whether you are or you're not going to run for Harvey County Sheriff again, Chad? What are you going to do?
I would be happy to make that announcement on your show here.
Okay.
Yes, I am running for Harvey County Sheriff again, and so this will be my 3rd term, and it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, I am going to run, and you're right. I haven't filed yet. I just kind of been, not really intentionally, but just I say dragging my feet.
Yeah.
I just need to get the paperwork filled out and get it turned in and get on the ballot.
Yeah. So
yes,
you heard it here, folks. You heard it here first. Publicly, Chad Gay is running for Harvey County Sheriff again. Thank you for saying that on this program. You're making my day, Chad.
Yes,
you know that?
All right.
That's awesome.
Good.
That's awesome.
Good.
Thank you for doing that here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you got my vote.
All right.
You got my support.
And I assume my family's going to vote for me, so I got like 5 or 6.
Yeah, at least 5 or 6. I love it. All right. And then, of course, haven't been on here before. I know that you've watched other interviews with people before, but what I like to do is just give the guest on the program the last word to speak directly to the hearts and minds of anybody listening right now. Chad, what do you got to say to us?
Woo, that's a lot to chew on there. Because I could really, get like prolific here.
Yes.
Woo, really did. Yeah, but I don't know
anything you want to say, my man?
I don't think I have anything that deep.
So open-ended.
Well, for one thing, I want to make sure people understand how good of a law enforcement community that they have access to, and that includes, once a month, I get to meet with all the chiefs, and I say me, we all meet together, right? Yeah. And we have lunch together. And so we have a really exceptional group of people, of human beings, right, leading law enforcement in this community. And, I know most of all the cops here in Harvey County, and we have a really exceptional group of people in our law enforcement community. So I want to make sure people understand how fortunate they are in Harvey County. For one thing, that we all work together very well. We all get along very well. And that doesn't happen in all counties where municipalities and the sheriff's office get together well, or even municipalities get along with each other. It doesn't happen everywhere. So people are very fortunate to have a group of folks serving them that they do. One of maybe some advice to folks, one of the things that I figured out early on in my career was how you treat people. And being kind to people makes such a huge difference in everybody's life. And especially as a law enforcement officer, right? Get my hands involved here. Yeah. especially as a law enforcement officer, how important that is. And I always tell, like I remember my daughter, my oldest, Morgan, she's a new police officer. Anyway, when she was young in high school, she broke up with her boyfriend, and she was bad-mouthing him to me. And I'm like, whoa, don't be bad-mouthing him. I mean, no matter what happened there, it's high school, right? It's not the end of the world. Don't be bad-mouthing him, because you never, to anybody, not to us, not to you can come vent to us, but not to your friends, in the public, because you just never know when you might need that person to help you along in life, right? So that was always one of my messages to folks, was just be kind to people. If you have an issue with them, just be kind to them. Doesn't mean you got to, hold hands with them or something, but just be kind to people. And it really, I'll admit it, that all those years in the school and the way I treated people and the way people treated me was how I got elected. I mean, 22 years of law enforcement experience helps in a law enforcement job, but really the biggest thing, I think, was just the way I treated people and all of my life, not just my law enforcement career, but all of my life. And it led to me getting elected as sheriff. So big deal. So I think that's what I'd like to tell people.
Kindness matters, folks.
Yes, it does.
Kindness matters.
You never know.
That's right. Well, there you have it, folks, and thanks for listening to this episode of Harvey County Talk. As always, I was your host, Lance Gormley, and our guest on the program was the Harvey County Sheriff Chad Gay, who will be running for another term, and we appreciate you, and we'll be lucky to have you for another 4 years, Chad. Thank you.
Thank you.